Hello, everyone, and welcome to Herosner Podcast Season 2, Episode 14, live on YouTube and Facebook. It's Thursday, April 21st, 2022. Happy Thursday to everyone. I'm your host, Vik Aslanyan, and as always, I'm joined by my multi-talented co-host, Mr. Mike Balyan, where we discuss our great Armenian history, covering different people, eras, and topics. We hope you're all having a wonderful Thursday night, and we thank you for taking the time to join us tonight. How are you, gentlemen?
Fine, thank you.
Fine. All right.
Fantastic.
How you doing? Good? Excited?
Yeah.
All right. Our guest today is Mr. Ara Papian. Ara is the former ambassador to the Embassy of the Republic of Armenia to Canada, also the head of the Center of Modus Vivendi. I think I said that right? Our topic today is going to be the Woodrow Wilsons Arbitral Award. Now, before we kind of jump into this main topic, Ara, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. I know you have a busy schedule. And
thank you for inviting me.
No problem. Thank you for
Thank
accepting our
thank you
invitation.
For accepting our
yeah,
invite.
we
Yes.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Now, before again we dive into the main topic, for those audience member that might not know about you, can you give us a quick background about where you were born, studies, career accomplishments, etc.?
I was born in Yerevan in 1961, graduated from Yerevan State University, Oriental Studies, namely Iranian Studies.
Yeah.
Later graduated from Historical Faculty and so-called chair, doing postgraduate studies and PhD there. Later I became diplomat and graduated from Moscow Diplomatic Academy, NATO Defense College, and Oxford Public Diplomacy. This my education.
Wow.
I was the Armenian diplomat in Iran, Tehran. I opened the Armenian embassy there in 92. It was the first Armenian embassy there. Later, I was Armenian diplomat in Bucharest for 2 years, and my last posting was in Canada, as you mentioned, as Armenian ambassador to Ottawa. And I was head of many departments in Foreign Affairs Ministry. I resigned in 2007, and after that I was mainly involved in research, doing my these studies in putting together all documents of Armenian rights, territorial rights, and compensations. We'll talk about this. It's the main topic that I was involved, and doing some tours and lectures all the world among Armenian communities and universities as well.
Okay. Now, obviously, you're here on a special visit. Can you talk about that a little bit? What's the main point of your trip? I think you were in Canada, now you're in the States.
Yes. I spent, before coming LA, a week in Washington, having meetings there with diplomats, with State Department officials, namely with the head of Caucasian department, with the head of Armenian desks, explaining our views about peacekeepers, about the modern situation. We gave some our suggestions and recommendations. I had meetings with former diplomats and ambassadors, my colleagues whom I knew for many years, and some of them I met recently, having some exchange of views because of the situation, this war between Russia and Ukraine, and trying to explain our views, saying, I mean that political group, Armenian National Democratic Alliance, and as well explaining about Arbitral Award, about League of Nations report done in 1920, saying that these two documents are the main basis for Armenian borders with Turkey and Azerbaijan. After that, spending a week having almost 15 important meetings there and conversations, I came to LA to have here meetings with community members, with community organizations, to participate in many events, maybe to give some interviews as today,
Yeah.
and will be going on also to participate on April 24 event a day before and after as well, and also to, in a way, to discuss and understand the current situation also in Armenian feelings and their ideas about motherland or fatherland. How you call it. In Armenia we have fatherland.
Yeah, depending on who you talk to.
And this, because we have our followers, we have our supporters here, our members, we need to have feedback from them as well to understand what we are doing wrong or right. This is very important. I'm trying at least to spend a week or two each year in the United States, in both east and west parts of the United States, to understand what's going on the ground.
Got it. You mentioned April 24th. Obviously, that's in 3 days. It's the remembrance of the Armenian Genocide. This year is the 107th year. And the reason we invited you is because we both personally are very interested in the Wilsonian map in general, you know, and it plays such a big part after the genocide, you know. So we've prepared some questions for you.
Please, I'm ready to answer.
You're ready for the interview. Yes. All right. Before, Mike, you go start with your question, I want to thank everybody who's joining us. To our audience, during the show, feel free to ask questions. At the end of the show, we'll bring them up and Ara will answer your questions. And I ask everybody to be very respectful. Doesn't matter what your political views are. We want everyone to respect our guests, respect one another. We're all Armenians end of the day, so it doesn't matter. So let's begin.
All right, let's take it away. So during the 20th century, Raphael Lemkin coined the term genocide. There have been multiple genocides, Rwanda, Darfur, and whatnot, but there's something I can safely say unique. I mean, I've personally looked into these genocides, but there's something unique and something different, and loosely using the word unique about the Armenian genocide. What makes that atrocity unique?
Okay, genocide, when we speak generally, people understand Holocaust.
Exactly.
Yeah. And we have to first to compare with Holocaust. The main difference is that Armenian genocide happened on our soil, and we lost not only lives, we also lost our country. This is the difference, comparing with other genocides as well. I mean, the Darfur, Cambodia, and they had this genocide, they overcame, and they stayed on their homeland. Uniqueness of Armenian genocide is we lost also our country. And this was the result, the outcome of the genocide, because we became so weak at that time after genocide that even having this arbitral award, a legal document which gave us our lands, we were not ready to defend the country, which realistically was impossible. And now we, after 107 years, we always were speaking not only about recognition of the genocide, which is important, and fortunately, President Biden finally closed this page. Even United States, several times they spoke about this. There was official statement from 1951, when United States expressed their views on the genocide convention and so on. But finally, we can say the United States completely recognized the event of genocide. Now we have to go to the other stage: reparations, compensation, and recognition of Armenia's right to that legal territory, which legally belongs to Armenia. Some people are confused. They think that when we speak about territories, this means some kind of historical territories. We do not speak about history, because speaking about historical homeland, it's much bigger. It will include,
of course,
Cilicia, Kilikia, and the other
Go
parts.
back to Tigran, the Great, you know.
We speak just about the legal territory. Saying legal, I mean the territory on which Armenian title, the title of the Republic of Armenia, was recognized by international community, including the United States. This is that now.
This is before genocide or after?
After genocide.
After genocide,
it was in 1920 on November 22nd,
Yeah.
and this was in a way understanding of that time world community that Armenians must have a viable state. And saying viable, it's was coined by Woodrow Wilson, this expression, because viable, they tried to give Armenia some open seashore, open ports on Black Sea. Even Armenia, according to Woodrow's Arbitral award, didn't have access to Mediterranean, but they decided to give Armenia free access to Mediterranean ports, Aras, as well as to Haifa.
Yeah.
And the others, which means that now, speaking about April 24, we have to emphasize not the recognition, but the reparation and implementation of the Arbitral Award, which is a legal document for the United States.
I see.
Yeah,
Legal binding document, let's say.
Yeah, and we'll get to more questions about what the current state of that is, you know. But what I wanted to ask you is, when with this map that's been drawn out, if you want to pull it up, at any point, doesn't make a difference. We know that Armenians were displaced based on what we know about from what parts of now modern day Turkey they were displaced. How did they come up with the map that is in question? How did they arbitrarily or by whatever means come up with that instead of let's say
giving
returning
more or less?
Well, I mean, I'm not trying to be greedy here, but let's say there were Armenians that were displaced from outside of this area. Absolutely, we know they were. Right,
Surely
and hundreds of thousands of them.
They were, and before World War I, in the years 1912 and 1914, there was a so-called project, Mandelstam project, which dealt with 6 vilayets, provinces of Ottoman Empire, where Armenians were either majority or the main minority. And the idea was to create, in a way, autonomy for Armenians under European auspices. I mean, one governor from Holland, Netherlands, one from Norway. And this was actually one of the reasons of the genocide, because Turks understood that after the war, Armenians will get autonomy, which means a couple of years and independence. So they decide to destroy, to eliminate Armenians all over Ottoman Empire. But after Woodrow's ceasefire, it was signed on October 30, 1918. At the beginning of January next year, in Paris, the victorious powers came together. It was Paris Peace Conference to decide the future of Ottoman Empire, German Empire, and so on. I mean, the defeated countries.
Yeah, the map changed quite a bit after World War I.
We know that Austro-Hungarian Empire was divided into parts. German Empire became much smaller, and so on. And they began to discuss the future, the fate of Ottoman Empire in January 1920. The first, let's say, suggestion, the proposals were even much bigger. There was an American commission called the Inquiry under administration of Woodrow Wilson, and the idea was to create bigger Armenia. So, and the expression Tsovissov Hayastan comes from that time, Armenia from sea to sea, and Tsovissov, it comes from Psalm 137 of Bible. And you can find this expression in Canadian official hymn and so on. And the first suggestion was to create bigger Armenia. Then they saw, after doing some research, that Armenians are in numbers, few survived. And if the country which be legally bigger, I mean some 300,000 square kilometers, Armenians never will be majority there. And then Paris Peace Conference asked officially on April 26, 1920, sent a special letter signed by British Empire, France, and Italy to President of United States Woodrow Wilson to define the border between Armenia and Turkey in the former Ottoman Empire's Van, Bitlis, Erzurum, and Trabzon. I mean, they defined the vilayets already, which means 60% of the Armenian territories were given to Turks because of the genocide. Then Woodrow Wilson put together another commission, special commission, headed by William Westerman, professor from Wisconsin University. They worked several months, and they came with this final arbitral award, giving to Armenia the main parts of 4 Ottoman vilayets, Van, Bitlis, Erzurum, and Trabzon, around 165,000 square kilometers, and plus to so-called Eastern or Russian Armenia, there was another almost 60,000 square kilometers there. Together, it was really big one.
Okay. Now, when you talk about, these decisions that we're making, were there any prominent Armenians involved in this decision making? I mean, it just seems like it was the United States and the big powers just kind of saying, okay, first we want C2C now, and I understand why they couldn't fill, because obviously there was nobody left. But what prominent Armenians, politicians or generals or whatever, were they involved in this back and forth between the superpowers?
Yes, 2 Armenian delegations took part in the discussions, not in the decision makings, but in the meetings and expressing their views. First was the delegation of the Republic of Armenia, headed by Avedi Saharonyan, who was at that time Armenian foreign minister, and he was a famous writer, a lot of other positions. But there was another delegation, so-called Armenian delegation, headed by Pogos Nubar Pasha, which was from, let's say, Western Armenia and so on. They have some disagreements between them, because Pogos Nubar's view was to have bigger, larger Armenia and so on. Avedi Saharonyan, and they were more realistic, saying that it is impossible to have that, but they agreed. We have a lot of documents signed by both of them. Avedi Saharonyan and Nubar Pasha. Many other Armenians took part, experts sending their views. Some of them were involved in American fact-finding missions, let's say General Harbert's mission, who came to Ottoman Empire and Armenia in 1919, in August and September. Let's say Lieutenant Shekirjan was there, who later became General in U.S. Army. Some other Armenians were involved there. Let's say famous scientist Zatikyan, Zatik Khanzatian, was one of the leading experts on the maps, and so a lot of Armenians and non-Armenians were involved there.
I'm curious. I'm obviously none of us were around during that time, but I'm curious what the response of the people was like when they first understood or maybe got news that there was something like this kind of happening or occurring. What were the? Do you have any idea of what the climate of the populace was?
Let's speak about the climate in the United States.
Okay.
Because let's say Senator Lodge, who was a Republican at that time, leading Republican, was against of this Woodrow Wilson's arbitration, not because he was against Armenian. He was speaking out that you are giving too little to Armenians. Why you have to award Turks? Because the main, let's say, idea to give smaller Armenians to Armenia was that Armenians are few in the numbers. And Lodge was speaking that why we have to award Turks, because we will encourage some other states to kill people, and then we say, okay, there are no Armenians, no others, why you have to give people. But this was, let's say, American view on this. In Armenia, people were really happy, but this was really critical, very critical time for Armenia. Last day of the Republic of Armenia, it was November 1920, and before that, in September, 1920, Turks attack Armenia. Interestingly, 100 years later, in September 1920, the same thing happened. Armenia was fighting against Turkey and Azerbaijan, and and it was war was completed in November.
Wow, I never thought about that.
Yeah.
That never hit me either.
Just it's, let's say, a centennial of this. September to November in 1920, September to November in 2020. The same happened.
Same day. It was no.
It's not the
same day,
couple,
but a couple.
Almost the same situation.
Yeah.
I mean that Armenia remained alone, was actually abandoned because Bolshevik army before that attacked Armenia first time in May 1920. And Najde defeated them, totally crushed them. And then they agreed together, I mean Russians and Turks, and we have the documents, that Turkey will attack Armenia, Russia will do everything Armenia to lose the war, and then they will come and save the Armenians. Actually the same scenario that we have 100 years later. And Armenia was defeated at that time. We lost Kars, the main fortress there, and Armenia had to accept much smaller Armenia, not 165,000 square kilometers, just something 29.
More or less what it is today.
And became part of Russia, which was remained later Soviet Union.
Mm-hmm. Well, that sounds like it was scripted.
History repeats itself, right?
Well, I mean, it's not even that. It's I'm not trying to get into politics, but it's similar to a lot of things, I guess.
Usually, when we ask why we are studying history, the main answer is to learn from that.
Of course.
It's very important to understand what happened 100 years and a couple of 100 years ago.
Absolutely.
Because understanding the history, you can, in a way, predict the future as well.
Absolutely.
Of course.
That's the same thing we talk about all the time.
And one of the reasons why we started doing this is because we both believe that if you learn history, you know history, and especially the moves they made in history, the political gains, the military gains, and everything that they did.
So similar to things that happened thousands of years ago.
Yeah,
a lot of the events we've talked about.
It's funny, us doing this in such a short amount of time and learning so much about history that we both didn't know, and talking to intellectuals and people like yourselves. I think it has shed light how we see things a lot clearer now of what's happening with current day situation. But I was going to ask you to talk about basically what led to the Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award, major events led up to that. I think you covered it a little bit, but can you get into more detail about that?
Yes, because after World War I, Wilson came with an idea of self-determination, and he got a Nobel Prize for that. Actually, before him, Roosevelt got, and he was not only president but also a lawyer, and this is one of the reasons why the application was sent to him. Okay, before that, on May 11th, 1920, the draft of peace treaty with Turkey was given officially to Turkish delegation, which later became Sevres Treaty, which was signed on August 10th. Yeah. But parallel to this, it's very important to understand that Arbitral Award and Sevres Treaty, even they deal with the same issue, the territorial issue of Armenia, but there are two different processes parallel processes going
at the same time.
At the same time. Yeah. And then came out the issue of mandate over Armenia. After World War I, there was some kind of idea that over former territories of Germany and Turkey, Ottoman Empire, there must be some kind of overseeing the situation to prepare these countries to become independent. And France got mandate over current, let's say, territories of Syria and Lebanon, Britain over Iraq, Jordan, Palestine, and so on. and the Armenian mandate was given to the United States. But the legal basis for receiving the mandate was being part of and member of League of Nations, because the mandatory power was based on Article 22 of League of Nations Charter. Unfortunately, United States never became at that time a part of League of Nations, and because of this, the mandate was rejected by Senate on June 1st, 1920. After that, United States, they decided to support Armenia in another way. $50 million they gave or decided to give to Armenia, among which we received 12 million. And actually, but you see, 12 million, it was big money at that time.
Sure, but that's only 20.
Where's it?
I mean, so how many?
Where's the 38
How many
million?
percent is that? You know,
Yeah,
where's
but
the 38
the
million?
problem was that Armenia was occupied by Russia and Turkey,
Yeah.
and there was no independent Armenia to support.
Taxation.
And interestingly, Armenia and all this Armenian debt also and this loan was officially in the books of the United States until 1933, because interestingly, United States continued to recognize Armenian independence until that time, 1933. Even Armenia was occupied in 1920. And we had an embassy in Washington till that period. By the way, it is the same building where the embassy of Gabon is situated now. And someone, if will be in Washington, D.C., you can go and see the Gabon embassy. And understand.
So wait. You're telling me that Armenia was still recognized as an independent by the United States till 1933?
Yes.
And we had an embassy.
Well, we had an embassy. We have an envoy here. I found the papers of that building, and the building was sold in 1960s. And even at that time, the name of the building was the Armenian Embassy building, and so, which is important. Why it's important even now? Because some people, even our ambassador to Washington, they speak about 30 years of official relationship between United States and Armenia, which is wrong, because we had our official diplomatic representative, Armen Garegin Bastarmachan here, and United States recognized Armenian independence on April 23, 1920, and the recognition remained until, I repeat, November 1933. And the main reason why at that time stopped the recognition, nullified the recognition, because they recognized Soviet Union and Soviet occupation.
Yeah, that was
and they
in the 30s.
recognized because of Hitler came power in 1933, and United States decided that in near future, they have to cooperate
They didn't ally,
and ally and so on.
Yeah.
And because of this, they recognized the Armenian occupation. And so, but even now, there is a law coming from 1959. It's called Captive Nations Law. And each year on June 17, there is a special declaration signed by the President of the United States speaking about nations who are occupied by Russia, and Armenia until now remains among these nations. This shows that Armenia is not fully independent even now. We always speak about the regaining the independence, and saying independence, we mean not on the former Soviet Republic's territory, which was an administrative unit, but on the territories of really independent at that time. Yes, Armenia was at the time poor country, was attacked, but it was legally recognized since January 1920 by many countries who had our embassies in many countries, over 20 countries. There were some ambassadors in Armenia as well. And the United States had the representative. It was called High Commissioner Haskell. Haskell was High Commissioner of the United States to Armenia. Which means I'm telling this prehistory, let's say.
Yeah,
or
of
the,
course. Something had to lead up to all of this.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of course.
And then when on August 10, Treaty of Versailles was signed, based on the letter of April 26, I already told that it was signed by three main powers, big three, because there were some formats how to put together all these issues. Because League of Nations at that time had 52 countries. It's very difficult to come out with a decision when we have around the table 52 countries. And then they created this smaller, let's say, unit, Big Four and Big Three. This Big Three sent a compromise application to President. And based on the compromise of April 26 and also Article 89 of Treaty of Versailles, and the whole research that was done by William Wasserman's group, which has also representatives from that was called Ministry of War and Administration of President and State Department. They came up with this suggestion, which was signed and sealed by the Great Seal of the United States. This is very important. It was signed not only by President of the United States, it was countersigned by State Secretary Bainbridge Colby and sealed by the Great Seal of the United States. The documents which are signed and sealed, as I told, that way, they become part of the law of the land, which means the arbitral award. It's not only an international document dealing with Paris Peace Conference, it's also part of this country law, which means based on these arbitrations, Armenian can sue State Department why they had recognized and based on which document they recognized the Turkish Republic. By the way, there is no official basis for diplomatic relations between the Turkish Republic and United States. It was rejected by Senate 1927.
Wow.
Restoration of the diplomatic relations, I mean. And they overcame, actually, State Department overcame all these restrictions imposed by Senate. They sent temporarily so-called based on modus vivendi. I mean, the document signed between State Department and Foreign Affairs Ministry of Turkey. Andrew Grew, a diplomat, for a year to be representative there. But it was in 1927. Everybody already forgot about the genocide, about arbitral award, and so on. It kept going on, changing diplomatic missions. Even, I repeat, the Senate rejected restoration of diplomatic relations between Turkey and the United States, and State Department has no power without permission of Senate to do this.
Now, God, I have like a million questions.
These documents, are they available now?
They are available now. I have published some of them. I have a PDF of some documents that I didn't publish or I will do. They are there, and you can go, let's say, to look Senate's all these discussions in January 1927. It's all there, saying that we cannot vote for this because this will have contradiction with arbitral award, and arbitral award still now is in force, which means until Turkey will not fulfill and implement arbitral award, it will be illegal to restore diplomatic relations, which was after joining United States the war in April 1917 was ceased to exist. Yeah,
you know, I'm wondering why you said 1927. It was still being spoken about, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking what, more or less 7-8 years after the initial draft of this arbitration. Yes. Do you think it was more the changing in hands of, let's say, diplomats and whatnot that were involved with this situation that may have been like, okay, it's a back and forth, because that's what it sounds like.
No, you see what happened.
You know?
Maybe there was a so-called Lausanne Conference, which happened from 1922 1923. where it was signed Lausanne Treaty, which actually deals with Kemalist war against Greeks and so on. But during at that time, another agreement between United States and Kemalist Turkey was signed, so-called smaller Lausanne Treaty. It was signed on August 6th. The other one, the main one, let's say, was signed on July 24. And there was a separate agreement signed between United States and Turkey on August 6, 1920, saying that we have to restore all renew diplomatic relations, recognize Turkic Republic, and renew. And you know that establishment of diplomatic relations can be only by permission of 2/3 of U.S. Senate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they understood at that time that it is impossible because the memories were fresh in 1923 to keep a little bit and to wait. In 1927, they decided that it's time to go into Senate and try to receive the votes. But at that time, Vahan Kardashian, who was a very famous lawyer at that time and had a secretary of the first National Committee. It was Committee for the Independence of the Republic of Armenia, headed by U.S. Ambassador to Germany during World War I, James Gerard. James Gerard and Vahan Kardashian were lobbying against this recognition of Turkey and reestablishing diplomatic relations. And they were successful. So when in January 1927, they submitted in Senate to discuss, Kardashian and Gerard were really successful and was rejected. Then it stayed, the draft of the document stayed in State of Department until 1933, during the other Roosevelt time. And then it was sent back to State Departments and so on. No other actions, which means that we can clearly say that there is no Senate approval of restoration diplomatic relations with Turkey and United States, which means all the support, aid that Turkey received during all these years are illegal. And Armenian organizations have to sue State Department violating the laws and ask Turkey to compensate the taxpayers' billions that they received during these 80 or 90 years.
And how did that go?
Yeah, how likely is that gonna?
It can open negotiations, but like, was it deemed absurd for Armenians to ask for something like this, or
has it even been asked? Has it even been brought up? Or
Vahan Kardashian was eager to do so.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he died because you saw, when we have to understand the situation. There is no Armenian statehood. Armenia is crushed.
Everything was weakened.
Everything weak. Yeah. Armenian communities were very, very poor. They were fighting for everyday life.
Yeah.
Kardashian himself was, let's say, relatively rich. He had, in 1917, when he began his fight, he had $500,000. He graduated from Yale University and so. When he died in 1933, you can find in, I think, Horizon and somewhere, an advertisement asking money to donate for his funeral. He hadn't even money for funeral.
Wow.
But because he spent all his money fighting this Turkish lobby and so. We have to understand, no other organizations to fight. Unfortunately, when in 1946-7, there was the first assembly of the Armenian World Congress, and so they were taking the right directions. You can find a lot of photos with Wilson's map, with Wilson's photo, and so on. The idea was to restore the borders. Then in 1960s, the idea of recognition of genocide came on the first stage. Because during McCarthy time in 50s, to speak about Armenian lands, it was very dangerous, because to give Armenian land, it's meant to give Russia, Soviet Russia. It was Soviet Armenia.
Yeah, Cold War related.
Cold War. And people, Armenians were thinking, you have to fight for something.
Yeah.
And you cannot speak about the territories. And speaking about recognition of the genocide, it was a minimum to do. And they went after this. And in 1965, everything was shifted on the recognition of genocide. And we have this 50 years of fight for recognition of genocide. I can understand it was the only choice for Armenians until 91. But in 91, when Armenia regained the independence, even we are not satisfied de facto situation, but de jure Armenia was independent, we had to go back to that pro-occupation period of Armenia, say that Armenia's borders were recognized internationally, and the borders with Turkey are defined by Woodrow Wilson, the borders with Azerbaijan by League of Nations, and let's discuss about the occupation of Armenians' land in Karabakh. Yeah. Unfortunately, Armenia's leaders at that time decided to go in another way, saying that Soviet Armenia, the Republic of Armenia is the successor state to the Soviet Armenia. Even Soviet Armenia never was an independent state. No. And the borders were not internationally recognized. So we went this path for 30 years and so. And unfortunately, we also lost the war. And
it's funny you say that, because the last episode, Gevorg Nazarian, we were talking about how Azerbaijan declared that, they were occupied under Soviet, Soviet occupation, so they don't recognize it.
Yeah, it's almost like some sort of...
They don't recognize that.
On October 13, 1991, Azerbaijan parliament, they voted for a document called Конституционный акт о восстановлении государственной независимости, Constitutional Act or rebuilding or renewing, restoring the independent Republic of Azerbaijan. They speak about restoration. They spoke about the first republic which existed from 1918, 1920. And our view, National Democratic Alliance, is that, okay, we are ready. And I told in the State Department, we are ready to discuss the border issue. Yeah. We are ready to discuss and accept the borders with Turkey, with Azerbaijan, the territorial integrity of the both countries. But first, let's clarify what is the territorial integrity when we speak about, because if for them territorial integrity are the Soviet borders, which they rejected in 91, for us, saying territorial integrity, we understand the borders which were really recognized by international community, including the United States. This narrative must be changed, because during these 44 days of war, all people were speaking that Armenia has occupied Azeri territories and Azerbaijan is de-occupying, liberating their territories. But in reality, it's totally the other way around. The other way. The other way, because it was occupied by Russian Red Army in 1920-21, was given to Azerbaijan, even not the part of Azerbaijan, under their administrative control. And then after collapse of Soviet Union, we have all to go back to see what are the legal borders of the countries.
Yeah. Well, besides that, the Armenians have occupied it since it was given to Azerbaijan. Yeah. They weren't removed, right? It's just...
I want to thank everybody who's joining us live. Please like, subscribe, and share. Share it. Please share it with everybody. We're having a very interesting conversation with Mr. Ara Papian. We are talking about, the main topic is the Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award. Mike, I think you had a question for him before I cut you off. Sorry.
Well, look, we know there's a lot of events that led up to it, and you've been touching on this, right? Now, we also know that the arbitration is a very complex document.
Yeah.
something along the lines of, I know me and
Like
Vic,
250 pages.
yeah, me
or
and Vic
something?
wanted to look into it for a little bit. We're like, wow, okay,
No
this
time.
is massive. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't have time to examine it. Something around in the length of like 250 pages,
Yeah.
Yes.
some more or less.
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably have dissected this document
Sure,
throughout
we
your
have,
lifetime.
we have translated it into Russian, Spanish,
Yeah.
and Turkish languages, which means we had to go through in details, even discussing each word or how it's
Pronounced.
and how
And
we
the
can
meaning, yeah.
And the meaning
to change,
behind it, yeah.
to translate.
Just for maybe even us and our audience, what are some of the key,
Yeah.
like let's say the top 5 or top 10 key notes of this particular document that we all need to know about? We need to know about,
Yeah.
because it's still an open topic.
Yes, it's
Yes.
and it's legally binding document
Yes.
until
Yeah.
now. It's not implemented, but it does not mean that it was nullified. No, it's there because the difference between treaties and the arbitrations is that treaties can be renegotiated
Yes.
and signed, which they forced to do Armenia with this Moscow Treaty, Kars Treaty in 1921. And the arbitration, it's never, when it's done, it's finally and cannot be re-examined.
Yes.
It's a very important part. The first, let's say, idea is that world community by this arbitral award recognized one united Armenian state. Because usually Armenians speak about Western Armenia, Eastern Armenia. There was no Western Armenia, there was no Eastern Armenia, speaking legally. Not speaking about, let's say, historical some other, but legally there was recognized only one republic, the Republic of Armenia, which says that the territories of Russian Armenia, and the arbitral award says that, and it was recognized, as I told, January 1920, and the arbitration was November 1920, which means that the former territories of Van Bitlis Erzum, they were joined or given to the Republic of Armenia. This is important. One Armenian state, united. The second, the borders. Access to sea, and also there were some ports, seaports given to Armenia on two. They were given on Black Sea. Batum, it was Porto Franco. It was part of Georgia, but Armenians had free access there, and they have even railroad going to Batumi was on the Armenian sovereign rights. Another was on Aegean Sea, Haydar Pasha. One was Ayas in Kilikia. Another one was Haifa in Palestine, which means free access to sea. And actually the official title of the arbitration is about the borders, about free access of Armenia to sea, and demilitarization of Turkish territory. The other idea was this is demilitarization, because at that time was understand to have some 50 kilometers free demilitarized zone between Armenia and Turkey, because 50 kilometers at that time was on horse maybe 3 or 4 days. You have to come.
It's quite a big for back then.
Yes, and actually all Armenian territories at that time that became part of the Republic of Armenia. Interestingly, the majority of the population at that time were Armenians. What happened is 52% were Armenians, because the territory that Van Bitlis, Erzum, and Trapizon during the World War I was occupied by Russian Tsarist army. And Turks retreated, and the population understood that Russians would stay there, and they left the territories. This was the first reason. Second reason, that the death rate among the Muslims and Turks was very high. But not because Armenians killed them, because of diseases. Because thousands and thousands of Armenians were killed, their bodies were thrown into wells, into rivers, and so. And you know that it's some
they use the water over there.
They use the water and the typhus and other diseases. And over 2 million Turks and Kurds died because of that. I'm saying usually it's a revenge of the people.
Karma, right?
It's karma.
The gods have spoken.
And one of this is that Armenians were already majority on that territory. And the understanding was that within 25 years, Armenians will be 75% over that territory, because there was another concept of exchange of population, because Armenians survived in some pockets, let's say near Ankara, Caesarea, and also were survivals in Syria and Lebanon. And the understanding was to bring them all back on that territory. And also Muslims to go to the Turkish part, which actually later was implemented between Greece and Turkey. There was exchange of population, which means Armenia was not only, let's say, the title as Armenian state. It really could be Armenian state by the population,
by just the population,
demography, and so on, which was important. Also, the other idea was that there is clear documentation on all parts of arbitral award. Let's say financial situation, very detailed, military situation, how it can be supported. Because speaking about this 250 pages, let's say is the award, but it has main part, 89 pages, which is the main decision, which is signed and sealed, and appendixes to this. Also, it has some 25 maps, the general map, other 5 maps, and parts of the line which divided Armenia and Turkey. I mean, there were 19 working maps. The scale was very high in a way because after signing and sealing the arbitration, it came into force, which means that the commission had to go there and to demark the border, which means when you have the description of the border on the paper, it's called delimitation. When you go and put the signs on the border, usually it's the special pillars, it's called demarcation. And the special commission was created, headed by former U.S. Ambassador Henry Morgenthau, to negotiate between Armenians and Turks and to go and implement there. But the main problem was that Armenia doesn't exist already at that time, which means that we have a situation that document was there, but there was no beneficiary to receive the
doesn't exist as in it's under occupied.
Yeah, it was under occupation, Russia and Turkey.
Yeah.
I mean, the main territory, Turkey, because the western part, Van, Bitlis, Erzurum, and Trabzon, also Kars was taken by Turkey by Russian permission and consent. Part of Yerevan, Gubernia, Nakhichevan was given to Azerbaijan. Some part of Yelizavetapol, Gubernia, Karabakh also was given to Azerbaijan, and some part of Lori province, Akhalkalak, was given to Georgia.
We have an audience question from Edgar, if you don't mind.
Please.
He's asking which one of these treaties was signed by an actual Armenian government? Did that treaty is still legal document today?
Armenia never signed any document recognizing the border, any treaty. There is a treaty, Kars Treaty, which was signed by Soviet Armenian government. It's October 13, 1921. But because Armenia at that time was not subject of international law, it was
a sub-government of Soviet Union.
And also Kemalists. In 1921, there was only one legal government in Turkey. It was Vahedin Muhammad VI Sultan Khalif. And according to Ottoman constitution, only he had the right to sign or to give the treaty-making power to anyone to sign.
Make it official.
Make it official. Which means if we speak about the treaty, it was Kars Treaty, which is illegal according to international law because it wasn't signed between the subjects of international law. There is another, let's say, two protocols called Zurich Protocol. During Sir Sarkisian times, they were signed in Zurich, but they never were ratified, which means the only legal document defining the border between Armenia and Turkey is this Woodrow Wilson's arbitration.
Wow. No, I mean, I want to ask questions, but we'll get. I'll wait till the end. No. I'll wait till the end. No. Till we get to the current day. Till we get to the current day.
You know, the United States assumed the lead in this particular matter, right? What mandate did the U.S. have over Armenia? Also, why the United States and no other country?
Yeah.
Like, what was the main reason for that?
Yeah, as I told, there was kind of this understanding of mandates over some former territories. And because British Empire, France already got their parts from Ottoman Empire, and they decided if some of them will receive these parts, will become much stronger than the other, because always there is some kind of competition going on between, at that time, France. They were allies, but the competition going on between France and Great Britain. And that idea was to give to the third country, and United States were neutral at that time because they were fighting against Germany, but they never officially declared a war against Ottoman Empire, which means the first idea was that it was rising power, could afford the doing, it was neutral power, also because of personality of Woodrow Wilson. He was a lawyer, and they decided that he will be non-biased and really to make
a fair decision.
Decision. And I read in many books of international law that this arbitration, from the legal point of view, is really on the highest level. Is done according all international law, let's say, nuances and so on.
Now, Woodrow Wilson, he had 2 terms, right? From what I remember.
Yes. Yeah, he did.
From 1913 until 1921.
Yeah.
So, after his term was, did he even pursue anything after that? Was he involved in any way?
Typically, former presidents don't really do.
Yeah, but he was very keen to do something for Armenians. When you will go to his house in Washington, D.C., you can find there a special room and the portrait of Armenian young woman, Esperanza, the Hope, with a special flower in her hands. It's called Antaram. And the explanation is that the woman is Armenia, and the Antaram is evergreen. Let's say this flower is the arbitral award, which will exist forever. Yeah. And when he died, he asked not to have official funeral, but to put his coffin in that room where were 2 very important pictures of Armenian woman and his first wife. Or this is before that. And he always, after even he lost the elections, and there is some kind of legend saying that he was speaking at last days that he owes Armenians there's non-implementation yet, and in his let's say papers, University of Princeton has published 62 huge volumes of it's called Papers of Woodrow Wilson. I went through all these books, and some maybe 800 pages of documents signed or written by him exist there. And I want to put all this together and to publish to show that he was really, at least for 2 or 3 years, he was really engaged
and supportive of it. Yeah,
it's funny how we've covered so many situations with Americans involved, or other, like, they have this unique love towards Armenia and Armenians, and they actually cared about doing something about it. Like, it was
if you read the memoirs of Herbert Hoover, who during the Wilson time, who was head of American Relief or Armenian Relief Administration, so American Relief Administration supporting countries. I mean, in his memoirs, it's written that Armenia at that time was known to Americans as much as England was known. really, I mean, starving Armenians. This expression was very famous at that time.
Yeah, they
In
did a
many
whole
schools, in many schools, that was a golden rule, and so everybody was involved in the country. And just today, we went to museum, going through these photos. Hollywood at that time was not so famous, but the famous actors were gathering money for Armenians. This film, The Kid of Charlie Chaplin. So man, this is that. Frankly, this was the event when American people all over the country were involved, and America supporting Armenia was. It's made, let's say, in a way that America was becoming world power, and it became world power because it was humanitarian support to other nations. And Armenia was the first country and the first nation that United States helped. And also in the League of Nations, Armenia was the first country to discuss the issue. This is
interesting.
So then, if this was such a hot topic, and now I can finally ask the question, if this was such a hot topic at the time, why, I'm sure you get asked this all the time, and I have to ask it, why has the arbitration not been lived up to its full potential?
Because there was no country to give.
Understandably so. They were weak and whatnot.
No, not weak. Armenia, you see, Armenia was legally speaking, it's occupied by Turkey and by Russia. Even the part of that territory was called Soviet Socialist Republic of Armenia. It was an administrative unit of Russia, no independent countries. You cannot give something to someone who does not exist.
Doesn't exist. But at the same time, the arbitration was still being laid out, correct?
Yes. No. It was there. No. It's why it came against into Senate, the discussion in 1927, because Turks and their lobby, they wanted to restore diplomatic relations in 1927.
I understand.
And at that time,
it was a blockade, basically.
Senators say how we can vote for these documents, because voting for this
it's illegal.
It's illegal because it contradicts with the other obligations that we have, which, as I told, it's part of the law of the land. It's sealed by the Great Seal of the United States. United States has hundreds of thousands of documents. Only couple of percentage of these documents are sealed with this Great Seal of the United States. This is the highest level. And let's say the documents is done. And you see why Woodrow Wilson did in this way. Legally speaking, he, as a president, could sign himself and seal with the seal of the President of the United States.
Yes.
You know that each president has separate seal. But he knew, it was in 1920, that it will be impossible to implement during his lifetime.
So it was more of a global international.
And he made the arbitration as obligation of the United States, not the President of the United States, the state of United States, which means he understood that Armenia will be defeated. Already it was November 27. Already Armenia was defeated at that time. But Armenia will be forced to sign some other treaties to reject and refuse her rights even. But the idea was to keep there, let's say, on the table in a way, hoping that one day Armenia will become independent and will use the rights. And why we are fighting now for, this is the idea that, okay, we are independent, why we are waiting for? Let's put together all the documents, have some legal assessment to prepare all this court case, and then go to International Court of Justice trying to prove our title to that territory. Some people say that, okay, if we will receive the decision, what we'll do? This is the highest level, the highest court in the world. When you have the decision, you can go with this decision to Security Council. You can go and impose some restrictions on Turkey. You can get some compensation or rights over the territory. Let's say we could easily use the arbitral award for deblocating Armenia, saying that territories belong to Armenia. Also, we can, let's say, receive some fees and payments. Let me tell you a situation. In 2015, I was in London. I met the senior vice president of British Petroleum. I met him and asked him why you are using our territories without paying us for that. He was surprised what you're telling. I opened the map of Woodrow Wilson, said, okay, you see, this is Armenia. Your Baku-Cheyan pipeline goes through Armenia, some 300 kilometers. You have to pay at least half of the payment, the fee that you are paying to the Turks, to us. And I tried to explain. And this answer was, okay, it's up to you. Go to the court, receive the decision that it's remained in force, I mean the arbitral award, take the decision about arbitral award into London economic arbitration. They will make us to pay to you. What the difference for us to pay the whole money, some 700 million to Turks, or another half of that will pay to Armenia?
For him, he's a businessman. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't
make
matter.
a difference.
For him, the decision of the court is the important.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
And this is when some people say that what we will gain. This is the first gain. Second, let me tell. Aliyev threatens to go to international court and some other court, European Court of Human Rights, and to make Armenia to pay $100 billion or even more for using Azerbaijani territories, because according to him, we have occupied the territories, we used all the territory. And having the decision that League of Nations, it's another, let's say, decision of February 24, 1920, it's there. And I mean, if we prove legally that Artsakh belong to Armenia, we can easily reject any claims of Aliyev. If not, he will come with that decision and will force Armenia to pay $100 or $200 billion to him. This is another issue. It's not only issue of the territories. It's issue to predict what will come and try to prepare your documents to avoid the negative, let's say, development of the situation.
So interesting. I mean, okay, I'm not.
No, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I feel like the Armenian government right now is asleep at the wheel. I don't.
Yes, unfortunately, I was speaking to all governments all time. First, I gave a special report in 2003 to Kocharian. When I was ambassador, I was access to him and tried to say, it will give us another opportunity, possibility, and so on, because getting leverage over your neighbors, countries, enemies, it's very important. It's not the leverage is not the case that you have to use the military force, but the legal force is very important. Okay, he said, I have no time, I don't want to deal with it, and so on. Then I met Serge Sarkisyan when he was prime minister, also the same situation. I have written to Nikol Pashinyan. I met my friends whom I know personally, former ministers of foreign affairs and so on. Unfortunately, no one really wants to deal with this because it's a big headache for them.
Yeah.
It's a big...
How is it a big headache to have leverage? I don't understand.
Yeah, because you have to put together a special team to sponsor research in many archives, to try to go to International Court of Justice and so on. It's something. Why they have to do this, that they can survive without this? Because they think about that 5 years that they are keeping their chairs.
Yeah.
If you think about your position, it's headache for them. For me, it's an opportunity, it's an advantage.
Yeah.
Because it could open us also other compensation rights, territorial rights, and we could claim from Turkey some payments for using our territories.
Of course.
Yeah, because some people say, okay, how will take using once and it's not the case you have to take something. You can legally sign bilateral treaty agreement and make them to pay for using the territory.
Rent. Give us rent.
Yeah, it's called territorial lease. Under international law, there is territorial lease.
We're allowing you to live on there.
This is some kind of situation. Let's imagine you have house. The neighbor came and took 2 rooms of that. You have 2 choices: to force him out, or if you cannot, to have a rent, to receive a rent for them. The same can be with the countries.
Yeah.
I mean, they are receiving, using the territory, billions and billions of dollars that pay. It can be easily, for lease of the territory, can be easily $8-10 billion per year. Can you imagine Armenia, which has just our budget $2.5 billion, another $10 billion plus per year.
Oh my God.
With this $10 billion, we can really develop our country. We can have really strong economies.
Outside of Yerevan, not just
outside Yerevan, and also we can support diaspora as well.
Of course.
I mean, with this $10 billion, if even $1 billion will go to diaspora, can you imagine how many schools and stations, TV, and can be supported? $1 billion, because when this Hayastan Himnadram Armenian Fund comes together, put together some $15 million per year, it seems it's big money. Can you compare 1,000 million, which is and 15 million?
15.
You can't even open a school with 15 million.
You can't do
but
anything
it's 1 billion. But if we speak about $10 billion of dollars, I mean, this is the case that because you have to think out of box.
So understanding the scale of this, with these numbers, reparations, whatever the case is this just a case of laziness or comfort? Or both?
Maybe both. Maybe maybe I can think that maybe it's also some international pressure over our government. Let's say Russia is not interested to have stronger Armenia, because stronger Armenia, independent Armenia.
True. Yeah, this is true.
Also, let's say Azerbaijan and Turkey, for sure they are not in, because they lost. But they have their leverage. They have their people in Russia. The corruption is very high in Russia, and some people speak that even during this war, before war, some billions of dollars were given to Russia to Putin himself, and so on. I mean, it's issue of corruption, it's laziness, it's
comfort,
comfort, and they do not believe, they do not understand. My approach was, when I began doing this research, some 14, 15 years ago, my understanding was that prepare our homework. Let's do what we can do now.
Yeah.
When the situations will be suitable, we can put on the negotiation table. But to do so, we have to be prepared. Otherwise, the opportunity will come and go away, and we cannot catch the opportunity, because usually during the history time, you have the window of opportunities for a couple of years. And it's just 1 second, historically speaking. 2 years for history, it's nothing.
Yeah.
And when you are not prepared, you cannot use this.
Of course.
Let's say in 2007, when I resigned and went into the research, I received an academic leave for 1 year. And I was thinking that 1 year will be enough for me to find out the documents, to put together, and so on. I am doing this almost 15 years. And I think if I will be doing another 15 years, maybe I will complete 50% or less the documents which we need to go through. It's very important to go, because there are special archives that we know they exist. We have to go through to find other documents, not only speaking in our favor, but also maybe against us, to predict what will be they using against us. Because when you go to International Court of Justice, it's usually you have I was there several times. I met some judges of International Court of Justice. By the way, the Russian representatives there is Kirill Gevorkyan from Russia. He's number 2 in the International Court of Justice. And so I have sent arbitral award to him before when he became judge. I mean, the idea is the process of this, it takes almost 5 years to go through. Not you have every day these sessions. No, you meet couple of days, 3 or 4 days, then they stop the discussions and come again after a month or something. But we have to prepare all the documents before that, to put together, to classify them, to understand which one, maybe to publish. Also, we have to prepare public opinion for this in the world and in the United States as well. And let's say my opinion for April 24, especially for the United States, is now we have to underline our legal rights, our territorial rights. Not going and asking Turkish Republic, the consulate, recognize Armenian genocide. It's recognized, it's done. Will Turkey recognize or not, it will not change anything.
Yeah, it won't change anything.
No, even let's say 10 countries will recognize, it will not change anything. Because for us, the United States were important. Not because of the legal outcome of this. No, because of political.
Yes.
Because now we can speak to them and say, you see, your president made an arbitration. And one of the reasons that was your questions, why United States? Because United States was rising power and everybody was looking as some fair country that can do justice for everyone.
It was balanced.
And if you want, I mean, the Americans want to have the country with the image of the country that can implement justice and to be fair to every people, let's do this. Also, with this arbitration, America will have many geopolitical gains because can you imagine, just for a moment, 100 years ago, Armenia was not occupied by Turkey and Russia. Instead of this, we had American mandate over Armenia, and America was represented, was present there. The whole history of Middle East could go in another way.
Completely different direction.
Completely different of the world history. Because presence of the United States on the soil of Middle East, it could change the dynamics, total dynamics. It could change the dynamics of Turkey, Russia, and so on. Okay, it wasn't done at that time, but now it's another opportunity because, and one of the, let's say, factors that people were using against mandate was so-called Monroe Doctrine. Monroe was fourth president of the United States, so I do not remember which one, but in 18s, saying that America has to limit its interest with America, South and North America. We had nothing to do with Europe and Asia. And by the way, President Wilson was the first U.S. president to go as a president to Europe in 1918. He was the first one. Yeah. And now everybody understands that the security must be global. You cannot have security for the United States just keeping the border safe in the United States. If United States want to have really security, they have to solve the problems with China, with North Korea, with Turkey, that is becoming more anti-American, anti-Western, with Russia. I mean, isolation is not the solution for now. So legal right to be present on the soil of Middle East is very important. It's maybe crucial for the United States interests.
Well, I mean, it would have proved very special for them too, considering what happened with the Cold War. It would have been a strategic move.
You talked about the research that 15 years, it could take another 15 years. Now, is it just you, or do you have a team helping you?
Good question. Generally, I am alone doing this, supported by my friends from time to time, receiving some donations to do it, because it's really an expensive thing to do.
Of
Go
course.
from state to state, from country to country, sometimes having to pay for each copy. One page sometimes costs $5 to make a copy of that, especially with they are private, let's say, universal libraries and so on. You have to pay for this. In National Archives, it's the documents are free, but making copies or scans, it's also to have to pay. I approached some diaspora organizations, but really did not receive any support. Now I have a promise from, I will not name his name until we'll do
Until
this.
the promise is kept.
Because I received so many promises.
Of course.
Yeah, but he promised me to help to have an office in Yerevan to put together a team and to do this.
Yeah.
I do not have even an office in Yerevan.
I think
to this. I keep all these documents in my house or in my friends, and having another problem with another guy on which I have some documents in his office.
Yeah, I think the biggest issue is a lot of people, when they meet someone like you, or if subjects like this come up, it's natural for them to get fired up, want to help, and then that after the drinks fade, or the next day they wake up, it fades away, which it's unfortunate. You know, a lot of people don't keep their word, especially wealthy people who have the means to support, because it's, I think it's a special research, and it's unfortunate that you haven't received the funds or put together a team. And I hope it does happen, because it's very important
as well. It's very important because it seems to me the situation, even we know the grave situation in Armenia, but some events going on around Armenia that give me some hope, especially this relationship between United States and Turkey. We can see this Turkey is drifting away from the United States, coming close to Russia, all these problems, which means United States are looking someone to replace the importance
that part of the world.
Turkey. For sure, Ukraine will be one of that countries, which means that the importance of Turkey will diminish as member of NATO, because Ukraine will become more important. Regardless, it will become member of NATO. Not generally, there is a territory where they will have a presence.
Yeah.
But for the Middle East, they need another presence. Now they are shifting their presence, in Greece. They opened the new military base there. They moved from Izmir, Smyrna, the main staff from NATO East Wing, so-called Southeast Wing, to Larissa place in Greece and so on. But Armenian strategic position, especially with Georgia, it's becoming very important, because this will give to United States control the interconnection between Russia and Turkey and the Turkic states, as well some kind of over Iran. If Armenia will be late, I think that Kurds and Kurdistan will take our place in this big geopolitical game.
Well, yeah, they'll create a Kurdistan
they will
where
create
our lands were.
With this all.
Yeah, I've heard some ramblings about that over the last 5-6 years.
Again, I want to thank everybody who's joining us live. We are on YouTube and Facebook. Everybody, please give it a thumbs up. Share with your friends, family. We're having a conversation again with Ara Papian regarding the Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award. I've lost my question track. Is it your turn or my turn?
It doesn't matter. Sure. I mean, we're pretty much getting to a point where, you're talking about what your personal efforts have been over the last 15 years. What else is going on outside of what you're trying to do? Are there other individuals who, let's say, are being sparked by this, and potentially, if some sort of domino falls geopolitically somewhere where there's some game plan, it doesn't sound like there is, but if there's something being talked about in the current day, maybe in the past 5 years, and also the follow-up question to that would be, how does it look moving forward? What's the outlook? And you can be very honest, whether it's good or bad.
You see, I have discussions on this not only with friendly countries, but also with representatives of Turkey, high officials.
Yeah.
I mean, officials who were ambassadors to Georgia, and they cover as well Armenia. I mean, in the sense that Armenia has no diplomatic relations, but they gather information from inside. It may surprise you, but Turks, in a situation, and I will explain in what situation, they will be eager to give these territories to Armenia.
Really?
Really?
How so?
How so? Let's imagine that we have a situation that inevitable to create Kurdish state, Kurdistan.
Okay, I see where you're going.
Yes.
Yeah.
What will be Kurdistan? It will be a real danger, a threat, maybe existential threat for Turkey, because it will be big country with population maybe 40 million, 50 million, and when we compare the rate of growth between Turks and Kurds, the Kurdish rate is much higher, which means creation of big Kurdistan is threat for Turkey. Creation of big Armenia is not threat for Turkey, because saying big Armenia, it means some 5 million people, maybe 7 million people, but not more. And this is when Turks told me that we'll do everything not to give any inch of our land to anyone. But when will come the time that will understand we cannot keep the lands, we have to give to someone, we'll give it to Armenia rather than to Kurds, because Kurdistan will be existential threat for Turkey. Armenia never will be, because of the size and the population. And this is when we can see the geopolitics sometimes makes so changes that unbelievable. Who could imagine some 10 years ago that Russia and Ukraine, almost the same ethnic group, at least with the same roots, will fight each other? The same thing can become out everything. Oh, the collapse of Soviet Union. I repeat my understanding, which I was telling. Let's be prepared. Let's do our homework. Let's to have some 10 volumes of these documents that put together. And be prepared to use them. It will be creation of Kurdish state, because if it will become reality, they have to refer to some kind of international documents. And Article 62 of Treaty of Versailles, which actually is the only document speaking about creation of Kurdish state, first as autonomy and then independent state, says clearly that northern border of Kurdistan is the southern border of the Republic of Armenia, which will be defined by Woodrow Wilson, which means creation of Kurdish state will revive the issue of territory of Armenia. And also when we look through history, Armenian issue and Kurdish issue, they all are interconnected, interweaved with each other. And also we have to understand that many Kurdish-speaking people, in their origin, in their roots, they were Armenians, let's say, and they have
assimilated,
but they have some positive attitude towards Armenians. Let's say Zaza Alevi Kurds, they have, or Alevites. Also, I mean, we can create our environment because my advice to our government always was to be more active, not reactive. We have to not to wait to see what kind of challenges we'll have and to answer, to respond to them. We have to create opportunities, our environment, our security environment. And to do so, we have to create, to establish relationship not only with state, but also with stateless people. And some of them are millions and millions. Let's say there are over 3 million Talishi living in Azerbaijan, and in Iran there are some 5 million Zazara people living in Turkey, some 20 million Alevites, and so on. Even people in Dagestan, it's northern part of Azerbaijan,
Yes.
and Sapat, they are really threatened by this pro-Turkish or let's say pan-Turkish
Yes, the pan-Turkish,
attitude,
yeah.
because they do not want to be part of Turkey, Azerbaijan. A week ago, the deputy of Azerbaijani parliament was speaking about their land that was occupied by Russia in Dagestan, and speaking that first Russia has to return the lands in Dagestan to us, and then we'll see what we'll do with Russia and so on. I mean, these
Their appetite is
Yeah,
huge.
yeah, they're like calling in a debt when they don't have one.
Yeah.
yeah. If you go through their textbooks for school people of 5th grade, 6th grade, you can see the maps where, let's say, half of Iran is Azerbaijan. According to them, Azerbaijan's come down until the Gulf, the Persian Gulf. Not they see all Armenia as Azerbaijan, but half of Iran, maybe some parts of Russia, Georgia. This is the case.
Because there's a territory in northwestern Iran called Azerbaijan, but not
actually the real Azerbaijan was the Iranian Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
Until 1918, the territories above or north of Aras never were called Azerbaijan. They were called Shirvan. And called Azerbaijan was a province in Iran.
Yes.
Then Turks, Vahid Pasha and this Turkic army created a Turkish state, having in their minds to have claims over Iranian Azerbaijan. They named the country New Republic. First, it was called Eastern Caspian Republic. Then it was,
called
renamed as Azerbaijani Republic.
Yeah.
And now they are speaking about their claims over Azerbaijan. And people, they do not know these details. They think that if there is Azerbaijan in Iran and there is another Azerbaijan north of Iran, and they speak that they are divided nation. But actually, even Iranian Azeris, they are not in origin, they are not Turks. Some of them, they are Turkic-speaking Iranians. They were assimilated because Turkish language was very common among the people. I mean, speaking the language does not mean you have that origin. This is the situation what we have.
Going back to your when you talked about that the Turks said that they would give that land rather to Armenia than they.
I was repeating the words.
No,
of,
I'm saying, but if
official.
that were the case, let's say, and it's all about the fact that it's like having 7 million versus 40 million. But if let's say something like that does take place, wouldn't that create a conflict between Armenians and Kurds now? Because that area, there's a majority is Kurdish, right? Well, are those 40 million Kurds just going to get up and move?
No. I mean, on Wilson, Armenia, there are about 6 million population. Maybe 5 million of them are Kurds. Maybe some of them will voluntarily leave that part. But we can have the situation that now we have in Baltic states, where Russians continue to live, but they do not or did not receive citizenship. I mean, let them live there. It's not the problem living there. Being loyal citizens, not citizens, being loyal to Armenia. The issue is, the threat is if they will receive citizenship and participate in voting. But the international law allows you, if the situation is created because of violation of the law, it cannot be used against you. I mean, ex injuria ius non oritur, which means that why the majority of the people on Wilsonian Armenia are not Armenians? Because of the genocide.
Yes.
this is that when I told that 52% in 1920 of the territories were Armenians, and it was predicted they will be 75%, it is very important now. This appendix can be used saying, you see, we are majority, and the situation is a result of a crime, and they cannot, which means that, okay, that lets them live there, be loyal to Armenia, pay Armenian taxes, and not participate as many people here in the United States. They have green cards, they live here, but they cannot participate in elections. This is it's not violation of their rights. It's just one of the, let's say, international law postulates.
We have a question from Nora. She says, my question, let me actually bring it up to the screen.
Okay.
It says, my question for Mr. Papian is regarding the, what is it? Multipolar world where Russia is aligned with China and what that may mean for Armenia's future.
Russia will not align with China. I mean, China will not.
Thank you for the question.
Will not. It's Russia wants to have that such situation. Okay. Russian trade with China is $87 billion per year. US trade is $900 billion per year, and European Union $950 billion. Can you compare all these things? Okay. If China will become allied to Russia, China will lose the market, the technologies, and everything will. And Russia will never do this, because China with Russia means it's collapse of Russia becoming having let's say the same situation as in Russia. It's some kind of Russian propaganda. China is not, let's say, there is a competition going on between United States and China, but China was never called as enemy or hostile country in official documents of the United States, because even Chinese approaches to solve all the problems. I do not, peacefully, I do not think that multipolar world, Russia will be, it's their wish, but will be polar of that, because Russia now is 1.3% of world economy. Russian economy without gas and oil is equal to economy of the poorest country of European Union, Portugal. Wow. Russia is a Portugal, not more. It gives 1.3 because gas and oil. Yeah. I mean, because of the resources, not of the technologies. Russia has no export of any finished product. Even Russian tanks, now they cannot produce tanks to fight Ukraine. They have only now one factory doing that because they cannot get spare parts from other countries.
Yeah.
And so on. I mean, how we can speak, at least for coming 10, 15 or 20 years, nobody can challenge United States position as the only polar in the world. Maybe later, I don't know. By the way, United States, they are using India as counterbalance to China, and they will support India, and India will become as one of the main partners of the United States.
Yeah.
And also Armenia may be benefiting of this if Indian road, India, Iran, Armenia, Georgia to Europe will be...
There's talks about
yeah,
that.
what was that called? I forget the name for that project.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but...
Yeah, and they gathered, by the way, in Bulgaria some 2 weeks ago, signing some documents on this. I mean... China has a potential, but it's based on American technology, based on American market, nothing more.
Yeah.
I
want to ask you, what do you think is going to take to bring the Woodrow Wilson Arbitral Award to actually to reality?
Yeah.
You know.
What you mean? Will
to actually
in money's
realization.
Case, now let's divide into three stages. What we need for realization, which I proposed in 2003. Stage number one: gathering documents, classifying them, doing researches. What are available? Let's say. Because we have to understand what documents are there.
Yeah.
Before going to court, usually, if you have some kind of disputes, you find out all these your payments and the tax payments for houses to prove your title. I mean, first stage is gathering documentation, preparing them for use. Second stage, which will if it will be some money, it will take up to 3 years to do this, and the importance of the money. And saying money for 3 years, it can be from $300,000 up to $1 million. It depends how big the team will be and so on.
Yeah.
The second stage is to receive some opinion on the so-called legal assessment. When you give all the documents to a team of high-level international lawyers, asking them to do research and find out which strategy can be more efficient.
Yeah.
What part of your documents you have to put on the table, which part next, and so it's very important, the details. Usually when you hire a lawyer, they think their strategy going to court, this one. And if they will, let's say that it's the convenient time. Also, this means that we have to have some PR specialists, politicians there to do assessments of the political situation and so on. Let's say 5 years ago, U.S.-Turkish relations were much closer than now. And we have this, which makes possible. And the final stage is to convince or to force the Armenian state, the government of Armenia, to go to International Court of Justice, because only the Armenian government can go based on Article 36 of the Statute of International Court of Justice, which gives binding decisions, which means that we have to convince or force Turkey to go with us. This is why we're asking State Department to do the same for Azerbaijan and Turkey. And there is another article, it seems 65 of the same statute, to receive an advisory opinion, which can be done alone by the Armenian state. But the first two stages can be done by Armenians in diaspora or some persons.
That's my next thing I was going to ask you is, like, I feel like that's more of a task that the diaspora can help a lot better than...
I was thinking so in 2007 when I began doing so, but unfortunately I'm disappointed because diaspora spent millions and millions of dollars or many cases speaking about pahanjatirutsun, but nothing was done for pahanjatirutsun, because recognition of genocide is not pahanjatirutsun. If even Turkey will recognize Armenian genocide, it does not mean to pay any reparations. Even, okay, there are some success stories when some families sued Turkish government and receive some payments for their
but that's such
houses.
small scale.
It's not small scale. It's their personal issue. It's nothing to do with Armenian statehood. I am glad to see some Armenian families receiving $300,000 or $5,000 from Turkish state. It's okay, but it's there. I mean, again, what it has to do with me?
It has nothing to do with the state.
With the state. The idea is, when we speak about the rights, we speak about territorial rights of the Republic of Armenia, understanding that if Armenia will be bigger and stronger, it's all ours. It's Armenia. It's not somebody's property.
But don't you think that after the war, the 2020 war, a lot of the diaspora has woken up, and especially, us, for example, that it
on a grassroots level. It's more on a grassroots level.
And I think this is the perfect time to especially have the younger generation get involved in this. And I mean, us learning, we're in our 40s and we're learning about this stuff, and we're like, how do we not know about this? So I think getting that younger generation in there, maybe who are in college or just out of college, get involved, especially people who are into law, international law. I think finding people like that, first, I think they would be interested. Second, it would help a lot versus, I don't know, I feel like in Armenia right now, they're too caught up with what's happening over there. And I think the diaspora is a lot more powerful.
Actually, what we are doing, spreading, disseminating information about this. Yeah. Maybe some people would come out with some suggestions. Yeah. But the main thing is we had to have an office in Yerevan, which will coordinate efforts all over the world. Yeah. The new technologies, they give the opportunity not to have everyone in one room.
Yeah, just communication.
Just put the document, let's say, I don't know, Google Drive or some other special one hub, and they can do their research from the United States.
Why not an exchange student type of a thing, or some kind of a, if you say you set up an office in Yerevan, then these let's say pre-law students can actually use it as some kind of a credit towards coming over there and doing the research.
But this is the case that I have
funding, right? Funding.
I mean, not only finding a special room. I mean, if you do not have a place to put the books and the documents, how you can work?
Yeah, how are
if
you
do not have a computer to do
what
this.
I'm saying, funding.
Yeah, funding.
Yeah, of course. That's where it starts.
I approached the Armenian government several times, telling them, and I approached Armenian parties, organizations also. It's not the case before, after war. I'm speaking all this and approaching them that unfortunately, too many words, very small outcome of this. Some people really helped. I have published a lot of books. I told that we have translated into Spanish, Turkish, Russian. How I did this? It was supported by some diaspora Armenians. They gave money for it's not cheap when you translate, let's say, from English to Turkish and to publish this. Also, all these publications, they come out with scientific indexes as the scholarly. It's not the case. Yeah, you just take the documents, make a Word version, and publish them. You have to do this in a way that it can be trustful. People will use diplomats, lawyers. There is a special procedure for this, and this can be done. But the idea is. I think one of the disadvantages of this legal fight is that nobody knows about this if you do not speak. But going on the streets on 23rd of April with torches, speaking and putting fire of Turkish flag, everybody sees you. Yeah. You are patriot. But sitting around in front of computer for 12 hours per day, going through these documents, sometimes you have to read 1,000 pages of documents maybe to find 5 important documents. Who will know about this? People want to be seen as really savers, heroes. But you see,
that's where the work gets done.
The work is done
in the trenches,
in silence and in cabinets. Because I was speaking, let's say, in State Department, speaking about centennial of our relations, and said, okay, give. I said, what? Some publications about a source book of U.S. Armenian documents we have to go through. Why we have to believe you when saying that 100 years ago there was an Armenian ambassador or embassy here? Why we did not about this? Why did your community didn't tell us about this? Why your ambassador Makuns is speaking about 30 years of relationship when you are saying that we have 100 years? This is the case. We have to fight our government as well, because their information is against us, and so on.
Oh man!
Oh, so many questions just popped in my head, but being I know you're short on time. I know we're gonna cut it short. We're about like almost 2 hours into it. Yeah. You being involved in the government and being an ambassador, and you, like you said, you've spoken to every president and even Pashinyan.
No, I didn't speak to Pashinyan. I gave a written
thing. Yeah.
Uh-huh. But I spoke to Pashinyan's foreign affairs ministers.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you see the outcome with the current situation? What is your opinion as to what's happening, and what do you see? Which direction do you see this going?
Okay, first of all, we have to prevent any worsening, the declining the situation. I mean, to prevent signing any document with recognition of Armenian borders with Turkey or with Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
And Russia is pushing very hard. Just yesterday, their representative spokeswoman said that we will help both and assist both countries to reach a peace treaty. And so saying peace treaty, they means to force Armenia legally to recognize the outcome of the war, which we don't want because it was unjust war. It was violation all obligations by Azerbaijan, by Russia, and so on. I mean, first stage, preventing. Second stage, to make this idea of solution of Armenian rights or territorial rights based on legal basis, to make everyone in Washington to think that the best way to solve the problems in South Caucasus and is to go through legal means, to go International Court of Justice. It's very important to make them to understand the importance, which, I mean, my contact shows that they accept this idea.
They're open to it.
Yeah, they are open for this. And the other stage is that try to publish, first of all, to find out and get copies of as many documents as it possible in our favor, and then to put in use this through publications. I mean, printing or online publications can be both a way, and also in parallel doing some PR, public relations work, making people to know what happened. Not only about genocide, but people more or less know about the genocide. Yeah. But as I mentioned during the answer of the first question, it was, okay, genocide. Armenians lost about 2 million people, but they lost their fatherland. This is the main important part and difference. Yeah. Israel was created because of Holocaust. I mean, they established
they got
land because of it, because the idea was to give them their land to them to make possible to survive.
Yes.
We lost our lands, and one of the main problems what Armenia is too weak and in danger because we have small territory. We do not have access to sea. We have small territory. And so can you imagine now, the first taxpayer in Armenia is Agarak Agardi Prenzi Kombinak, Agarak Cooper factory, and so. Let's suppose that Nezhde was unsuccessful and we lost at that time Sunik.
Yeah.
Number one taxpayers, I mean, among 5 taxpayers, 4 of them are situated in Sunik because they are all this kind of thing, gold mining and so on. And the second one, Armenia's defense ministry, which means that without Sunik, Armenia's budget will be half of this which had. This is it. Its territory is not only the numbers, it's the source of wealth, source of security and safety.
Yeah.
Because
resources.
2/3 of Armenian population, they lived in Ararat Valley, which can be easily destroyed from Turkish side by just artillery, not using missiles, which makes real danger for us. And when some people say that territory doesn't matter in 21st century, they are lying. Look on Ukraine. They survived because they had bigger territory than Armenia, and Russians had occupied twice more territories than Armenia, but it's just only 10% of Ukraine, which means this territory is important.
Harder to manage.
Numbers are very important.
Of course. Yeah. I mean,
and this is said by creating bigger Armenia, and saying bigger, it does not mean that it must be have the same color on the map. There is some kind of solutions that can be done, so-called condominium, which means that 2 countries can have their sovereignty over the territory. This is the answer to Kurdish state. Maybe it will be Armenia, restricted maybe to Armenia, Kars, and so on. It could be Kurdistan, and there can be condominium, let's say 100,000 of square kilometers between Armenia and Kurdistan, which can be used by both countries under international auspice and
So it would create like a buffer zone.
A buffer zone and so on. Let's say there is a small country, Andorra, between Spain and France.
Yeah, you're right.
This is a condominium, which means that Andorra is governed by France and Spain.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a bigger territory governed by Armenia and Kurdistan, by Armenia, Turkey, and Kurdistan. It can be. We need this zone without, let's say, 5 kind of so-called assault weapons. That there is a special convention of a Paris Agreement of Conventional Armed Forces signed in 1990, which restricts 5 kinds of weapons on the territory. It's very important. Let's say if this territory will be under all 3 countries, it can be some kind of European Union territory. We can put together, unify our efforts, and it can be source of cooperation instead of being source of war or disagreement between the countries.
There's a question from Nuna Movsisyan. She's asking, Mr. Papian, did you have a chance of a meeting with Ambassador Lynn Tracy to present a critical, sorry, this thing just moved up, critical reality that Armenia facing at this time? I hope there's some message was sent to her that as much as Armenia will dream of formal protection from U.S., still almost impossible because of Russia iron pressure over the government.
No, I had no opportunity to meet Ambassador Tracy. I had 2 meetings with, I will not name, but 2 high-level diplomats in U.S. Embassy. But the problem is with the U.S. Embassy that they are too concerned of this COVID, and so I don't know why they are so afraid of this situation. They do not want to be. No, for explaining the current situation, but I explained the situation as I told in State Department, in Caucasian Department, and so on. Also, I met with Ambassador Jovanovic. At that time, I presented and gave some copies of Arbitral Award, because the Arbitral Award was published in 2011, and Jovanovic was at that time ambassador. It was her last year. We met. I gave some 10 copies to this, explained. Mm-hmm. She brought with her with State Department, but after that, I had no connection with her. But we gave a lot of copies to other officials in Washington as well.
Yeah.
Cynthia,
you want to ask that question?
Cynthia Gevorkian's asking, Mr. Papian, would make a great president of Armenia? Has he considered it?
Running for president.
Running for president, yeah.
No, according to current constitution, I can't, because I have dual citizenship. I am a citizen of Armenia and citizen of Canada. And all citizens that of Armenia, they hold the second, let's say, passport. They can't, and you have to
wait. Even if you denounce it,
if you denounce it, you have to denounce it 4 years before the elections. Can you imagine?
Isn't that what that gentleman, that one from Russia, did? What's his name? That big businessman.
Vartanian, Ruben Vartanian.
Ruben Vartanian.
Yeah, but speaking legally, he cannot run for presidency.
I know, but I think I remember him mentioning he's doing it now. So
yeah, but yes, to wait another 4 years if the constitution will not be changed. Maybe they will change.
There is that.
Maybe he has some kind of agreement with local authorities. And Putin can force this.
Wasn't Pashinyan's term up in 5 years or 4 years? Isn't it every 5 years to be prime minister?
Yes, but the elections were just last year. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. So he has another, let's say 4 years left, and then he'll change it that he's king now, and that's it.
Who knows? Who knows?
But we have to solve many problems before that, because if the situation will go on in this way, it's very hard to imagine what will be in Armenia in coming 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Armen Sarkisian is talking about Armen Sarkisian that had dual, but we're not talking about president. The role of president.
Armen Sarkisian told that he has renounced British citizenship some 4 or 5 years before. And Pashinyan told that he believes. And then they found out that he has another citizenship of this
some island,
island there, and then maybe because of this he resigned. I don't know, but they found out that he has another citizenship.
Well, then again, the position of president in Armenia, it's such a, it's like a, I don't even know what to call it. I mean, it's more of a showcase that he does appearances.
It's not the case of mine. Let's say. Armenian nation that has big diaspora, and among them also a lot of Armenian citizens living abroad. To have such a kind of restriction is really nonsense. Because let's imagine some citizens of Armenia left Armenia some 10 years ago. They are quite successful in the United States, in the Russia, and so keeping Armenian citizenship.
Yeah.
And now they want to return to Armenia to have their participation creating new statehood. Let's say no party can include them in the list of their candidates for becoming member of parliament. Even they cannot be members of parliament.
Completely outlawed or banned from it.
Now, was that him or was that previously?
It was done by Ser Sarkisian in 2015. And you see, this is the situation. We have authorities that always speak about unifying diaspora and Armenia and so on.
That doesn't sound anything close to it.
In reality, changing the laws in that way that makes much harder to Armenians to participate in the life of Armenia.
It's the snake oil salesman, It's like when they need the diaspora money, the diaspora, analogy. This and that, but then
good analogy.
From the back, they block it, Let's see. Do we have any more questions? We'll be coming. Nation. What does it say?
League of Nations decision on Armenia border. Armano-Hanyan. We kind of touched on that. Yeah, more.
League of Nations
quite a bit. He's saying, "I'm sorry I joined late. Did you talk about the League of Nations decision on Armenia's borders? Can it realistically be reinstated and taken advantage of for?" Delimitation and
I think that's
demarcation. Yes. We discussed it briefly earlier.
But let me explain because what is going on. Because the border between Armenia and Turkey was defined by arbitral award, Wilson's arbitral award. But the border with Azerbaijan was defined or proposed by League of Nations Special Commission. Because if you know that League of Nations created special commission called Commission for Delimitation of the Borders of Armenia and Azerbaijan, Armenia and Georgia, and representatives of British Empire, France, Italy, and Japan were part of that commission, which means the Council of League of Nations, the highest body, was represented there. And they came out with so-called report proposals on the border between Armenia and Azerbaijan, saying that not only Nagorno-Karabakh, also, let's say, Lower Karabakh belongs to Armenia. It was done, I repeat, February 24, 1920. And our proposal, my proposal in State Department was the same. Okay, when Aliyev says that Azerbaijan legally belongs to, Artsakh legally belongs to Azerbaijan, based on which documents he speak? Because it was given to Azerbaijan by a Russian Communist Party, which was illegal even at that time, because Azerbaijan and Armenia at that time, de jure, were not part of Russia. They were so-called independent socialist republics. Soviet Union was created on the December 13, 1922. The decision of KAV Bureau, Caucasian Bureau of Russian Communist, was done on July 4th and 5th of 1921. This is some people say, okay, it is contested at the League of Nations decision, so on. But my answer is, okay, let's go into court with two questions. Does CAF Bureau's decision creates legal basis for Azerbaijani title? Will be clearly no. At least this is very important for us. And the second question, does League of Nations proposals create a legal basis for Armenian title? Because the important thing is the title over the territory.
Yeah.
I am sure that the first answer will be, Azeri rights will be no. The second answer, at least, will be that this creates the most, let's say, strongest title, possible strongest title. In a way, our situation is much stronger discussing this than
Azerbaijan's.
Of course, yeah.
And if we'll go, I don't know. If we will go through a League of Nations documents, because there was a special commission, nobody has seen all the documents of League of Nations Commission, of this special commission. Somebody has to go to Geneva and to go these documents and find, maybe we can find some documents that will prove and strengthen our situation.
Wow,
it's
like treasure hunting.
Yeah.
It's literally like treasure hunting.
Yep. Are you okay with a couple of more questions?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Edgar is asking, is Bever thinking of appointing candidates for those elections? I'm not sure which. Are you talking about the next elections? Edgar.
It's too early to speak about this. We don't want actually to wait until the next elections, because Pashinyan will totally destroy the country. We hope that how we say that Artnatsir Haimart will wake them and force him out of this and to go.
Do you see that happening though?
We can see that the numbers are growing, but not as much as we would like to see, because we have to see on the streets at least 20,000-30,000 of people that who can speak about the will of the people, the political will. We can see, let's say we had last year about 15 rallies on the streets, which was unprecedented, because no other party was doing this, just they were calling for once and so. But the numbers are between 5 and let's say 8,000 coming out. It's not enough to do so. We have to show ourselves.
Now, is this even with ARF as far as?
No, we do not have.
No, what I'm saying is like the protest at ARF. Is it still like 5 to 10,000 people showing up?
Yes.
Obviously they're against it as well. But do you guys see as possibly uniting to have a bigger group? No.
Because RF, their vision is Russia. They want to have Armenia under Russia. We don't want to have Armenia under Russia. What's the difference between RF position in Pashinyan? No difference. Speaking geopolitically, they say we are more kind, more. I don't know what this is. Less corrupt. We haven't seen this. We have seen corrupt ministers of RF. We have seen corrupt leaders. Them. Why have to believe them? And what the difference? Armenia will be under Russian control, having prime minister from Քաղաքացիական պայմանագիր or from Դաշնակցություն or from Vanessian. What the difference?
Yeah.
Armenia will not survive with this geopolitical approach. The problem is that Armenia has to change drastically the geopolitics of Armenia.
Okay. Arman says the ARF in Armenia is not the ARF we know, and that's true.
I want to say that. Okay.
That's very true.
Yes, Dashnaktutsun, especially in California, is totally different. It's, let's say, keeping the principles of real ARF.
Yeah.
Armenia or Dashnaktutsun in Armenia, it's part of, let's say, Kocharyan's party, they were paid previously by diaspora and Dashnaktutun. Now, diaspora, especially California chapter, they do not want to give money them, and they are getting money from Kocharian or from Russians. What the difference?
Yeah.
And keeping fighting for what? This is the problem, fighting for and saying independent Karabakh. We also against of independence of Karabakh. We are for unification of Karabakh to Armenia. This is another big difference.
Yeah. Edgar seems like really wants you to run in 2023 for mayor of Yerevan possibly.
I mean, if really we'll have in a way that says Azgayn Ishkhanutun, my best position I will be the advisor to someone who takes decisions about this. It's
not your thing.
It's not. Yeah, I am not interested in having, but I need to have some real position to give advices how to do this, how run the country. I
advisory committee.
Kind. Unfortunately, Pashinyan had 2 advisors for foreign relations, and he fired both of them. And he has no advisor in foreign affairs.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Okay, anyway. So I know. Thank you again for hanging out with us
for all the questions.
All the questions. Everyone, we've been on the air for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. Thank you so much for hanging out with us and having the conversation,
joining us and talking to us.
Educating us. We always have one last question. And Mike, you want to go ahead?
We ask everybody. We ask all of our guests whether it's a serious conversation or not. If you had a time machine,
okay,
what part of Armenian history would you revisit and why? It's a loose question, and we just any answer works.
Maybe 5th century.
Yeah,
it's very interesting time because we have really big, deep-rooted changes that Armenian society. This period of writing new books and all this, it's really was changing from pagan period to being Christians and so. And it's very interesting for me. But in reality, I would like to. I am satisfying being born in this very, very hard time because I think that I can be useful for my country and I'm trying to be useful as much as I can. And this is very important for me. I have this feeling of satisfaction doing something for my country.
And I hope you continue to find greater success and a lot more help. Thank you.
Yeah, and thank you for everything that you're doing. Thank you for taking the time from your life to do this research, and I hope that this does come to realization.
He gave the first part of the answer was my answer, 4th to 5th century.
Yeah. But we have a little gift for you.
We have a gift for you.
As you know, we do the sculptures. This is his talent, Mr. Mike Papian.
This is from us to you, Ara Papian, for.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. If you want to open it and take it, yeah, sure.
To show everyone, maybe.
Yeah, you get to see it too.
Yes.
That's your gift.
Please take the
box.
Of course. This is Tigran the Great, one of the greatest leaders of Armenia. And we hope that we will have such leaders in near future as well.
Yeah. So that's a gift for you. That is registered to your name. That's a collectibles item, and all the details are in here.
I will put in my library and in library modus vivendi, and in that office that I hope we will have in near future.
It'll be my honor that it's going to be, or our honor that it'll be in your office.
Yeah. So
really,
I want to thank our audience for joining us. Thank you, everyone. I know some people joined us late, but you guys can rewind, and there was a lot of questions that you had that was answered by Mr. Papian. Anything you want to announce as far as any events or anything before we call it a night?
First of all, I will call to participate during these events of April 23 and April 24, but to stress and underline that these events must be focused on our claims, not recognition of claims and implementation of arbitral award. This is very important. And be hopeful. Do not lose any hope, because we survived much graver situation, and I see that the light is at the end of the tunnel, and in our lifetime will see really big successes for our motherland.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, none of us can give up hope.
From your mouth to God's ears,
and everybody's got to do little things.
Yeah. Everybody. We always talk about that. Stop complaining. Do something. Doesn't matter what it is. The smallest thing can help. You never know.
And if you're angry, harness your anger into positivity.
Yeah.
Do something right.
Yeah. Those of you, you know who you are.
That's the bottom line.
Yeah. Again, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Best of luck in everything that you're doing. Safe travels to you. To our audience, again, thank you so much for being live with us. We appreciate it. We'll announce our next live in the coming week. Make sure you saw the sculpture. Visit us at herosner.com to purchase our sculptures. The Tigrans, we have the bronze now, as you can see right here. We have the Vartan bronze, and support the show. Become a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/medherosnej. Everything counts as far as, and we appreciate everybody the sales have been coming in. Thank you so much. Those of you who have ordered, we truly appreciate it.
Thanks for the really awesome pictures.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So till the next episode, as we always say, respect each other, love each other, and till the next episode, take care of one another. All right. Take it easy.